Greetings, friends. Good morning. Well, first, housekeeping. If you will turn off your phones or put them on Wi-Fi, it has something to do with bandwidth and the Zoom. And good morning, friends on Zoom. The first hymn will be Worship and Song 135, Breathe on Me, Breath of God. Hello, beloved. Whoa. Whoa. My name is Leslie Bassett. I'm an attender and a fan. When I was thinking about Phil's series about what Quakers got right, it made me think about serving at the facing bench. What valuable could I say? And I thought about the concept of right. I thought, what is right? What is the value of right? And I figured right must have something to do with what is true. And through its expression, we are loving and compassionate. So then I thought there must be some assumptions about me and about us. And the first assumption, I think, was or is that we're able to discern, to somehow sense what's right. And if our Quaker position is correct, then, and God lives within us, we believe that the divine is expressed through us, then we are necessarily competent to discern truth. And in our process, we're truth played out. And what did the kids say? Takes one to know one? It must take truth to be recognized and to recognize truth. And that must mean we must be able to be loving and compassionate because we can respond. We are response-able. To be responsible, to practice. We must intend and practice being spiritually available to getting it right. Over the years, I've had a couple thoughts about what I have to do to practice, because I know it's my job. Like, I took the violin and I practiced, but it didn't do a lot of good. So one of the things that I have to do to practice is be authentic, to not pretend that I'm not able. When I was a little girl, I was sickly a lot and missed school a lot, and I had asthma, and I didn't realize, I knew it was terrible because I could be out of school for a month or more. I didn't realize the suffering of my parents. Well, I'm still a little kid, and I remember one day I didn't want to go to school. And so my mother comes in to awaken me, and the night before I had seen I Love Lucy. And she had amnesia. And I thought, she comes in, Leslie, wake up, Paula, wake up. And I thought, this is a good day for amnesia. So I'm lying in the bed, right? And she goes, don't move. Now, your mother always can, know what's up. So I'm in the bed, and Paula gets up, and I'm laying in the bed. She said, Leslie, get up. And here we go. Who am I? Where am I? I didn't realize it was cruel. And my mother's like, what? You're Leslie Ann Anderson, and you live at 2204 West 63rd Street. Lord, you're dying. Now, since you believe that your mother really knows you, I thought I must be dying and didn't know it. So I'm in bed, scared to death that I'm dying with no script. So she gets on, she's crying, and it scares me, and she calls my father. Oh, Bobby, Leslie's son, man, she don't know where she is, and she's dying. And I think, oh, Lord, let me get up. So I jump out of the bed, and I run to my mother on the phone. I said, no, Mama, look, I'm okay. She said, get your butt back in the bed. She said, you're dying. And I thought, I must really be dying. So I'm there, and I think, oh, I remember I had a different position. Oh. So then she calls the doctor, and at the time the doctor did house calls, and he came, Francis Hummons, very tall, stately person, and I'm in the bed, almost dead, and he comes in and he leans over me and he, examines me, and my mother's weeping and Paula's scared, and he says, looking at me, he said, I can't tell that whatever was killing her is still here. And he leaned over me, he said, and I assume it will never come back. God, I'm busted. But my mother never knew. But what I did know is don't pretend, because I am able. Okay, a second one, I've learned to practice slowing down and lightening up. It requires a quieted pace and a pleasant and light spirit to be open to finding your right mind. Do you remember on the playground, the merry-go-round, that vomit thing? And they said it's fun, but kids are flying off like gravel off a dump truck. It's like ugh. Okay. The third practice is remembering. As I get older, it's a little challenge, but if you practice, things will come to mind. And I found that we have to practice remembering that we are in process. Whatever the truth is revealed, it comes like a flower opening. More as you Quakers have taught me about process. And because we're all coming into the light of understanding. And the other part to remember is, so are others. The ones you like, and the ones you feel you can't stand. And last, we have to remember that we belong to each other. When I was little, I remember my mother saying, "You are on my last nerve." And then in a couple of days, she seemed to grow another one. And I would get on that one too. And I would notice that she was always forgiving. She never held a grudge. She never, there was never an attitude. There was still a joyful receiving of me and an expectation. And I'd say, "Mommy, why is it that you're not still mad? Why are you not upset?" And she'd look at me like, she said, "Because you're mine." I think that we must remember that each of us, we are each other's beloved. And we're all reaching for getting it right from where we are. We are our beloved.
Yeah, I saw Josiah bring in the sugar cream pie. Had a cover on it, and I thought for a minute it was coconut cream, but it wasn't. It was sugar cream. And I'd just been to the doctor that day for my diabetes, and so that kind of ruled that out for me. And so I just had my hardtack and gruel, which is what I've been eating these past 3 weeks. It's just sticks and grass and kind of chewing my cud. Oh my gosh. Well, we can be grateful though for other things, even if we can't experience them ourselves, can't we? Oh God, we are grateful for all the goodness in this life, even when it seems we are not partaking of it ourselves. Place within us, O God, hearts that are glad for the happiness of others. Place within us a sense of joy at the joy others experience. Being careful not to envy, not to despise those who are experiencing blessing. Oh God, place within us such a capacity to love that even those people who annoy us, whom we dislike and mistrust, still seem to us to be the beloved children of God. For God, we live in a time when division comes so naturally, so easily, that if we are not careful, we will find division within ourselves between your impulse to love and our impulse to hate. So, oh God, let us always bow before the impulse to love. Let that always be our guide, our way. We remember today all of your people everywhere. We thank God for blessings big and small, for all of life and all its dimensions, oh God. We are grateful. Amen. You know, I don't think we've ever had a married couple pick up food. Sean and Amanda, you were youthful and strong and able. How did you say that? Response? Able Response able? Yes. Thank you. Man, look at you.
Now you're going to kick away.
Well, with our old meeting house getting cleaned out, I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and I've even had a few dreams about it and memories and what life was like as a congregation in that place. And I've discovered it's much like the life we have in this place, just warm and lots of good memories. But I remember, and I've been thinking specifically about when I first came here as the pastor. I was 37, 38 years old. And I had a big, bad case of the big head. I'd had several books published, still had hair, was married to a striking, intelligent woman, and was under the impression that I was God's gift to Quakerism. I rolled into here thinking how lucky you all were to have me as your pastor. So you can imagine my dismay when I attended my first monthly meeting for business. Certain my fellow friends would be waiting with bated breath to hear my thoughts on every matter, only to learn that you all felt perfectly free to do something entirely different from what I had suggested. This came as a shock. And I admit that at first I was mystified and thought perhaps I hadn't been heard. So went to the next monthly meeting and shared my ideas more passionately, more loudly, more vigorously. But friends still seemed resistant to my suggestions, which baffled me because I was positive that my ideas came straight from God through me to the meeting, who I thought would receive them with gladness and thanksgiving. Alas, that was not the case. The third monthly meeting was no better. And the fourth monthly meeting, I overheard someone sigh when I proposed an idea. I had excellent hearing back then, and it was definitely a sigh, a long, exasperated sigh, this expulsion of breath. I had spent my life hearing those sighs, so knew a sigh when I heard it. Discouraged, I went to Sarah Luca Bill, And I asked her why no one was listening to my suggestions. I was the pastor after all, and you paid me to be here, and you're paying for my expertise and wisdom. Why isn't anyone paying attention? And Sarah kindly reminded me that I think, though, to be honest, that she might have been the one who sighed. I think that might be the case. I'm not sure, but I think it came from where she was sitting. And she reminded me that in a Quaker meeting, power was not vested in positions, but in people. Not in positions, but in people. And that while it was true that I held the position of pastor, I hadn't been at Fairfield long enough to establish a track record of discernment. Sarah used the term weighty friend, by which she meant those friends believed to have a deep and rich interior life, whose insight into events is highly valued and therefore weightier, what we call weightier. It was a nice way of saying they didn't know me from Adam. And I wasn't going to be given power just because I was the pastor, which is consistent with our historic Quaker practice of investing people, not positions, with power. Incidentally, this is why I love it when someone comes here from another tradition where they invest the pastor with lots of power, because there I have a window of opportunity before they learn that we don't put much stock in the position of pastor. But there for about a month or so, I can get people to do the wildest, craziest things, like convince them to bring me food and that I have the power here, but it never seems to last. We've been talking about things Quakers got just right. And this is one of them, that in Quakerism, we do not have a ruling class. We do not have a chain of command where authority is exercised by those in its ranks. Early friends noticed, as I am sure you have too, that just because someone has power does not mean they are wise. Now, if position does not make someone a weighty friend, what does? Longevity in a meeting? I've met Quakers who think that simply by showing up every Sunday for a long time, they should have more power than anybody else. But early friends would have said absolutely not. No more than being in a long marriage means your relationship is healthy and loving. Longevity can lead to growth and wisdom, but longevity can also lead to stagnation and lethargy, neither of which are conducive to a rich interior life. I have known friends of 1 year who are weightier than lifelong friends, and I'm sure you have too. Does belonging to a certain family make someone a weighty friend? Is there a Quaker aristocracy, a landed gentry within Quakerism, a family whose members carry more weight than others, whose genealogy confers power and privilege? We reject that notion too. To be sure, I have noticed a tendency among certain friends to think their family's long association with Quakerism grants them a certain weightiness or status, but I don't know a single thoughtful Quaker who believes that weightiness is genetic. It is only the people in that particular family who believe their surname carries weight and prestige. Does the ability to quote the Bible at length make someone a weighty friend? I have met friends who believe that to be the case, but I've not noticed the correlation. Far more often, I have noticed that an intense obsession with the Bible leads not to wisdom and weightiness, but almost invariably to arrogance and legalism. Quoting the Bible is no indication of someone's interior life. Now, in some churches, especially those where the prosperity gospel has captured the hearts and minds of so many Americans, wealth, it seems to some, is an indication of spiritual wisdom and blessing, but not so among friends. Not so among friends. There has never been a correlation between wealth and weightiness, except to observe that the obsessive pursuit of wealth usually hinders our spiritual well-being. The world may hang on every word from Elon Musk, but a Quaker meeting wouldn't. The weighty friends I've known did not set out to be that way. It wasn't their goal in life to be well regarded by their fellow friends. What they have done day in and day out is cultivate the habits of weightiness. They have taught themselves to listen, to think before speaking, a trait that has always eluded me. They have taught themselves to educate themselves about important matters, to resist impulsivity and embrace thoughtfulness. I've known Quakers who wanted to be thought weighty, so took on the appearance of wisdom, but they are usually a caricature of weightiness and seldom the real thing. I know a man who took up pipe smoking, making clever remarks in between puffs on his pipe, but that didn't make him weighty. Furthermore, if someone tells you they're a weighty friend, they aren't. Weightiness can't be claimed, only affirmed. In Quakerism, you can make great and grandiose claims about your gifts and abilities, but unless and until your fellow friends observe and affirm those gifts, your observations will carry no more weight than anyone else's, and usually less. I'll close by correcting a misconception often heard in Quaker meetings when we talk about how we do business and how we figure things out. We are not a democracy in which every voice carries equal weight. While everyone is free to speak, while everyone is valued, those friends, no matter how long they have been in this community, those friends with a reputation for weightiness are especially heeded. When they speak, people listen. We do not listen because they are rich. We do not listen because they are a pastor. We do not listen because they've been around here forever. We listen because they are thoughtful and they are loving, which to us are the clearest signs of God's guiding spirit. Thoughtful and loving. Where we see those traits, we know God is at work.
Friend Phil, I sense that I should reassure you. You are indeed a treasure to Quakerdom. just like everybody else.
The Lord giveth and the Lord then taketh. Well, I'm going to throw a curveball at my wife and change the last hymn. It's a beautiful little song in the Green Hymnal. Song number 149. I celebrate the inward light. You know that one, don't you? I thought so. There you go. Let's stand and sing, friends. So here's how weightiness works. When I was asked to come here and be the pastor, I asked for a list of pastors and how long they had served. And Rosemary Swift gave me a list, and so I started doing math, and I figured out that the average pastoral tenure at Fairfield Friends meeting between 1898 and 1999 was 2.8 years. And I told Joanne, if I can just make it 2.8 years. At 2.9 years, we had a gay couple show up. And unlike gay people who'd been here in the past, they had no hesitation about introducing themselves as a couple. They weren't trying to fly under the radar as gay people had done so long in our culture. And this upset some friends in the meeting who had grown up, and you remember those days, who had grown up and felt this exclusion or furthered this exclusion, who'd been taught by their parents, by their churches, by their pastors that homosexuals were beyond the reach and love of God. And so a few people came to me and they said, we're going to have a meeting and we're going to talk about this. And you can do that in a Quaker meeting. You can go to the clerk and you can ask for a meeting to be called. And so there was, and we did. And we gathered over in the old meeting house. And people started sharing. Those who were upset began sharing, and other people began speaking. And then Pauline Given. Who seldom said a word in monthly meeting, said if those were my sons, I would want them here. And that stopped it. Right then, it stopped it. And that's weightiness. That's why we don't vote, because we do not want to be driven by the passions of mobs. It is why we identify among ourselves those persons with a rich interior life. And we heed their words especially. And that is weightiness. So look in your life for those people. And better yet, make the commitment to be that type of person yourself. Turn and greet, friends.